Welcome to today's training from Risk to Resilience, a guide on how to build compliant and impactful equity and diversity practices and policies. My name is Khalil, and I will be your facilitator for this session. Okay, let's talk about what happens when an irresistible force meets an immovable object. No, this isn't about Marvel movies. It's the situation we find ourselves in with DEI. The irresistible force, a growing legal pushback against DEI, the immovable object, the fact that diversity, equity, and inclusion are now fundamental American values. As leaders committed to equity, how do we navigate this collision course? Today, we'll unpack how to craft risk-free and impactful equity and diversity initiatives, practices, and policies that protect your organization while staying true to your mission. Let's begin with a quick journey through the history on the irresistible force of the Supreme Court when it comes to its evolving relationship with affirmative action. Affirmative action was created to address systemic discrimination and provide opportunities for underrepresented groups in education and employment. The goal? To level the playing field and foster diversity. But this well-intentioned policy has faced a long and contentious legal journey. In 1978, the case of Regents of the University of California versus Bakke marked the beginning of the court's scrutiny. The decision was a mixed bag. The court upheld affirmative action but struck down quotas, emphasizing that race could be a factor but not the deciding factor in admissions. Fast forward to 2003 in Grutter versus Bollinger, the court upheld race-conscious admissions at the University of Michigan, citing the educational benefits of diversity. Justice O'Connor famously suggested that such policies might not be necessary in 25 years, a ticking clock for affirmative action. And then came Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard 2023, where the court ruled against race-based admissions policies altogether, declaring them unconstitutional. The conservative majority argued that such policies violate the Equal Protection Clause, effectively ending affirmative action as we've known it in higher education. The Supreme Court's position is clear. Race-based initiatives must give way to race-neutral alternatives. The ripple effects are being felt in workplaces as well. DEI-related lawsuits are on the rise, targeting hiring quotas, diversity fellowships, and compensation tied to diversity goals. For equity champions and funders, this means rethinking strategies and training. The message isn't to abandon DEI, it's to adapt. The focus must shift to legally sound identity-neutral initiatives that create inclusive workplaces while aligning with the evolving legal landscape. History shows that DEI efforts can endure, even under legal constraints, when they evolve strategically. Let's meet this moment with clarity and creativity to ensure equity and diversity thrive in ways that are both impactful and compliant. First, let's get real about the risks. The impact of the 2023 Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action, which is a race-based program, has a direct impact on DEI-related initiatives and programming. Major companies are facing lawsuits for hiring quotas, diversity fellowships, and compensation tied to diversity goals. These programs are at risk because they often, 1. Confer a preference, meaning that some individuals are treated more favorably than others. 2. The preference is given to members of a legally protected group, such as groups defined by the categories protected in Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. These are race, color, religion, national origin, and sex, including sexual orientation and gender identity. And 3, the preference relates to a palpable benefit, such as a job, a promotion, a pay raise, a work assignment, or access to training and development opportunities. These are all red flags risks that can lead to non-discrimination violations. Okay, let's paint a picture of what this might look like in practice. Okay, so what do at-risk equity and diversity practices look like in the workplace? Here are 3 examples of at-risk equity and diversity practices. 1. Hiring quotas. For example, making sure at least 45% of your new hires are from a certain demographic group. 2. Group-specific internships and fellowships. An example, you create an internship that limits eligibility to Black and Latino talent. 3. Tying manager compensation to diversity goals. For example, you will get a bonus if you hire more women and people of color on your team. All 3 of these practices are at risk because they confer a preference on members of protected groups with respect to palpable benefits. Knowing how to craft policies and practices that meet your goals while avoiding preferences, protected groups, and palpable benefits is an upskill that many equity champions will need to learn. Let's jump in on how you can start leveling up. Firstly, it starts with mindset. Creating truly impactful DEI initiatives requires more than good intentions. It requires a growth mindset and an intentional strategy. Recognizing at risk practices and transforming them isn't just a task, it's a journey that requires courage, guidance, and community support. It takes bravery to question established norms, a coach to provide insight, and a collective effort to change the way we think and act. Remember, the Supreme Court isn't saying you can't pursue fairness. They're saying you can't do it unfairly. Here are 6 key tips for equity champions on how to future-proof your DEI strategy. 1. Leveling the field. Equity initiatives that have race or gender entry qualifications can raise legal flags. Instead, focus on leveling the playing field for everyone. Anonymized hiring, clear merit-based criteria, and consistent evaluation processes eliminate bias without inviting legal risk. 2. Universal values. Instead of limiting DEI programs to certain cohorts, make them about shared values or individual character. Programs like diversity fellowships can open to all who demonstrate a commitment to DEI, sidestepping legal pitfalls while keeping their mission intact. 3. Avoid direct benefits. Programs that tie tangible outcomes, like hiring, promotions, or bonuses, to race, gender, or other protected categories, they're legal quicksand. Instead, focus on building inclusive cultures that benefit everyone. For example, instead of a hiring quota, anonymize resumes to reduce bias in decision-making. Or shift your focus to training and awareness programs that equip all employees with the tools to thrive in a diverse workplace. These approaches aren't just safer, they're more sustainable. DEI isn't about lifting one group up, it's about leveling the field so everyone can succeed. 4. Non-discrimination isn't just a requirement, it's your compass. Every DEI policy, program, and initiative must be rooted in fairness. Why? Because nothing derails DEI faster than the perception or reality of reverse discrimination. When non-discrimination is at the heart of your work, you create trust. Employees know you're building a system that values everyone, not just some. And trust is the foundation of any lasting culture change. 5. Let's clear up the buzzwords. Diversity, equity, and inclusion mean nothing if you can't articulate them in the context of your mission. What does diversity mean for your organization? Is it about identities, experiences, or perspectives? What does equity look like in your workplace? Is it about career pathways, pay practices, or removing barriers? And how does inclusion show up? Is it about ensuring everyone feels heard, respected, or valued? The clearer you define these terms, the stronger and more credible your initiatives become. Let's get one thing clear. In order to future-proof your DEI strategy, you must have non-discrimination at its core. It isn't just a box to check or a poster to stick on your break room wall anymore. It's the bedrock of everything you do in DEI. Why? Because trust me, nothing screams lawsuit like the perception or reality that you're swapping one form of bias for another. Here's the secret. DEI initiatives shouldn't feel like a win for one group and a loss for another. They should feel like a win for everyone. The goal isn't to play musical chairs with privilege. It's to remove the chairs altogether so everyone can sit at the same table. As small business leaders and equity champions, you've got the chance to lead by example. By embedding non-discrimination into every DEI policy, program, and decision, you're building a foundation that's not only legally sound, but morally unshakable. And let's be honest, you can't spell justice without just, so keep it just, folks. Here's a quick challenge. Walk into your office, look around, and ask yourself, what does diversity mean here? Is it a rainbow of faces? A range of perspectives? Or does it mean absolutely nothing because no one ever defined it? The fact is, diversity can mean whatever you want it to mean. That's the beauty and the danger. Without a clear definition, it becomes a buzzword with no backbone. So let's give it one. Diversity can be about identities, race, gender, age, ability, or it can be about experiences and perspectives. Maybe it's about the way people think and solve problems. What matters is that your organization has a definition that works for your mission and goals. Small businesses, I'm looking at you. Your diversity might be fewer people, but bigger ideas. Equity champions, your diversity might mean amplifying unheard voices. Whatever it is, define it. Otherwise, you're just throwing glitter on the word and hoping it sticks. Let's get something straight. Equity isn't just equality, but with extra steps. Equality is giving everyone the same pair of shoes. Equity is making sure everyone gets shoes that actually fit. For your organization, equity might mean ensuring access to opportunities that level the playing field for everyone. Are promotions accessible to all employees or just the ones who remind their manager of a younger version of themselves? Are your policies accounting for real-world disparities or just putting a band-aid on a bullet wound? Equity champions, here's where you shine. You've got the tools to ask the tough questions. Are our pay practices fair? Are we mentoring talent from all backgrounds? Are we addressing barriers or pretending they don't exist? For small businesses, equity is your chance to lead with heart. Make fairness your mantra and your team will rally around you, not just because it's right, but because it works. Inclusion is like that awkward friend who's always invited to the party but never really knows what to do. Let's fix that. Inclusion isn't just about opening the door. It's about making sure everyone feels welcome once they're inside. Here's the deal, inclusion takes effort. It's not set it and forget it. It's about creating spaces where people feel valued, heard, and safe to be themselves. And I'm not talking about kumbaya sessions, though. Hey, if that's your thing, go for it. Inclusion means asking questions like, are my meetings a safe space for dissenting opinions? Are all voices heard or just the loudest ones? Are my policies flexible enough to accommodate diverse needs? For equity champions, inclusion is your North Star. For small businesses, it's your secret sauce. Make everyone feel like they belong and watch how quickly they show up for you. So, let's go back to answer the age-old question of when an irresistible force meets an immovable object, what happens? The answer: the object changes. The force is not resisted, it is absorbed. And the object is not moved, it is transformed. They change each other. DEI isn't going away, but it is transforming. The organizations that adapt thoughtfully, rooting their programs in non-discrimination, aligning with legal standards, and redefining diversity for their context, will lead this transformation. Your challenge isn't to fight the legal tide or abandon DEI, it's to absorb, evolve, and build a workplace that's fair, inclusive, and future-proof. Let's stop thinking about DEI as a checkbox or a battle. Let's think of it as a journey, and a smarter, safer, more inclusive one. The world of DEI is shifting, and the key to thriving isn't resistance, it's evolution. Root your initiatives in non-discrimination, define diversity, equity, and inclusion clearly, and avoid the 3 at-risk equity and diversity practices we've covered. For equity champions, this is your chance to lead with courage and creativity. For small business leaders, this is your moment to show that doing the right thing can also be the smart thing. Remember, DEI isn't about wokeness or weakness, it's about strength, strategy, and survival. So let's build programs that aren't just compliant, but compelling. Programs that reflect the best of who we are and who we aspire to be. Jedi Coaching, turning compliance into a competitive edge.